Hi, Holly. Okay, great. So, what we're going to do is we're going to go through this question 151. I know it's been a while, but I'll make it quick so you don't have to kind of painfully kind of go through this whole thing again. But here we have this question, Prancer construction. New client, and I noticed you picked it up in your answer. I'm going to go to that in a second. But this business, because you've been doing so many, just to take you back quickly, so you're not suffering and doing it all over again. They specialize in construction, property construction. So we know there are risks of overvaluation, of work in progress. We know that's where the risks, if you like, are. The fear is that people will overstate, if you like, the values here. So we're constantly trying to be skeptical about this overvaluation. There's also the question about how experienced we are, if you like, in dealing with property, because this is quite an interesting sort of specialized area, isn't it? So that's kind of those are the kind of the risks you're constantly thinking about. Now you know that the key issue here is that typically property involves a lot of borrowing of money, and generally there will be covenants, if you like, so loan agreements, and these covenants have to be maintained, and as a result, it is likely that you will see people trying to manipulate the accounts to meet those favorable, if you like, agreements or targets. So you're constantly very awake, if you like, to that. So, and typically you could have cash flow issues. So the question here is, those are the risks we're really looking at. The issue is, are they trying to manipulate their accounts, if you like, to look better? And you can see here is an early recognition. So the fact is that because business are paying 5%, there's a likelihood they might want to recognize that 5% as revenue. I know the financial reporting kind of overlaps with this, but the key point is you're thinking prudence, or realization. The realization concept sort of prevents us from realizing this straight away. So those are the sorts of things that we're thinking about. Or is there enough of a provision? Of course, everybody doesn't want to put provisions through their income statement that makes their expenses worse, increases expenses, and that doesn't make them look good. It increases expenses and creates a liability. Who wants that? So the question is, we're trying to make sure, or discuss. So the key words are discuss, review. You're not doing any actual testing. Remember, this is audit planning. You're right at the beginning of the process. You're putting a plan in place, and you're sort of thinking, these are the sorts of things we're going to be asking for. We want to know before we can agree. Right. So that brings us kind of to the first question here, about this question of preconditions, right? And it says that discuss the process that Cupid and Co. should have undertaken to assess whether the preconditions for an audit were present. So first of all, remember that, let's just go, I mean, without wasting your time again, it's just I want to try and get through as many of these for you. This question of preconditions is chapter 4. So there's a good chance, like I said, to go back. You end up reading it again because you've done the question, and that just consolidates the learning. So even before we start talking, they have to be preparing their financial statements in accordance with an applicable financial reporting framework. Right now, they must have internal controls. If they don't have internal controls, you're literally going to have to do test of detail, or substantive testing, or paper testing, or literally testing absolutely everything. If there are controls, you can rely on the controls, and then they're willing to provide you with all the relevant, provide you with all the relevant, where did all that go? Provide you with all the relevant information. I think, sorry, I don't know where. Let me just go back to that. Preconditions. Right, I think I've lost it. But we saw that already there. Let me just find if I can find that back quickly. Real, very touchy feely this. Okay, great. So we saw that was preconditions. Preconditions. Let's go to your answer. Now I'll leave this page. I mean, we were seeing what the preconditions are. So here, you've said that they should ensure that the management accept responsibility for preparing the financial statements, internal controls give a true and fair view, and all the relevant documents. So I'm only going to accept this one. So just kind of marking it strictly, I'm just going to give you a half mark over there. You see, because like I said, the key point really was the financial reporting framework. And do they have internal controls in place? So it's less about the fact that these internal controls give a true and fair view. What it is really touch and, when I say touch and go, it's like you're just trying your best to make sure you sound like the mark scheme, right? So in your mind, you're thinking, I'm writing things similar and I'm still not doing very well. So the key point is that preconditions, you remember it now, financial reporting framework, internal controls, and of course, they're willing to give you all the documentation that you need. or you have access to all the documentation. Okay, great. So that's that. Um, so this question about the next question asks about audit strategy. So let's go to the question. The next question asks about audit strategy, and um, question says that identify three main areas other than audit risks which should be included within the audit strategy. Now, I believe this will take you to this is chapter 6, planning. So of course, right, if you think about it, you can see here in part of planning, you're developing audit strategy. I mean, we know what strategy means, how we're going to deal with this problem, right? We have a problem in front of us, which is trying to get this audit through, making a decision. How are we going to go about dealing with this? And the first thing you can see, look at all the issues that we need to think about. Look at what audit strategy entails. So it's really important that you get a grasp of these headings. I mean, you probably know what's happening under the headings, but the more informed you get, the more specific. You have to be specific in audit. When I say specific, so there's a question of this, what we've just been talking about, this question of just the overall general research, kind of economic overview, the financial reporting framework, knowledge of the business, internal audit function. You just need to know what the industry is like, right? Before we get a bit more nitty gritty. So this one is a bit, you should be able to, most people will pick this up. Okay, who's the audit team? What's the budget? That's part of the strategy. That's not the whole strategy, just part of it. Timetable, do we need any external parties? Do we need any experts? That sort of thing, if you like, because we need to engage them, right? We can't just go into this audit and then think we need an expert and then call one, if you like. And then generally, what are the benchmarks and tools we're going to be using as we carry out this audit? So materiality, if you like, this need for professional skepticism, what's the risk of material misstatement, that sort of thing. So this is what is composed of it when we talk about audit strategy. Um, if you like, before we start looking at the actual audit risks, we just want to make sure we have experts in place who we're going to be speaking to. We've done the precondition bit. We're quite happy. We understand the industry. We know what the benchmark should be. So, for example, when it says that they forecast a certain amount, we're thinking, well, we know what's going on in the industry. The industry is declining, is in decline, or is in recession. So we know that really technically you cannot, if you like, afford that. I'm taking too much time. This isn't supposed to take too long. Let's go to your answer because I want to, again, I want you to be able to look through. I want to do as many as possible. So we have that. So you've written here, main areas: selection of the audit team, yes, good. Discuss with management a time frame, yes, and the number of invoices. I won't, but yes. So I'm not going to take that one. Even these two, what I think I would have preferred was the headings of those things, and then you writing about them. But I mean, they work. I mean, it'd be interesting to see what the actual answers are. But we can look at those later. Actually, let me just have. If you flick in your textbook to where the answers are to see, um, selection of the audit team with experience. Yes. Assignment and setting the audit budget. So, kind of what we were talking about, but budget, audit team, um, and yeah, I mean, they actually do. Oh no, what am I saying? Yes, that's what they do. They talk about all the other those big areas that we were talking about. So if you look at the mark scheme, I mean, I know it's only 2 marks. So to be fair, I think you would have gotten away with this. But if you look at your mark scheme, what they do is they bring in all of these headings. These headings here, they bring them in. They bring them in and then discuss a little bit. I mean, it's only 2 marks, 3 marks, and you want to be comfortable with this, right? You want to be comfortable. You're doing well. You're doing well. Okay, great. Let's go. Let's go. Mhm. Now let's look at the risks. And I think I'm happy here. You're picking up the risks. We'll talk about your responses in a second. Excuse me. Every time you have a new client, that's a risk, and you did well. There's no going back. We've talked about that. That's fair thing. And as you rightly said, what we need to do is we need to gain full understanding. We need to get a team. Um, so the question is, what we're really saying here is, you said the audit should take additional time. Correct. Good. 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 We gain an understanding of the industry and make sure we put put an experienced team. So this idea about industry, this is fine, but you want to talk about, oh, we need an experienced team. Um, so this here you're getting a bit too, here you're getting, what's the word? A bit technical, a bit evidence-ish, all this control. We're not really thinking about that just yet. Our focus really is on just the general risks that we're reading, and you're just picking those off, and this is a good one. So really cutoff is just part of your audit evidence, audit testing. So this isn't really something you'll talk about now. Um, but in terms of just your planning and you're looking at the issues, you're just trying to make sure that as you look through the story, every paragraph has issues. So you're thinking, what are we going to do to mitigate those risks, or how are we going to deal with those risks? That's what your response is. How am I going to, or am I quite unsure about what he's saying? So classic, perfect here. You're not going to be, it says that the inventory counts, you can't think, you're thinking, how am I going to get to all the 11 sites? Yes, and the question is, this is a good one. You've said, can I trust the internal controls? Great. You should be thinking, can I get other people to go along? Good, perfect. And that's kind of what you're thinking about, right? That's good. Let's carry on. Um, good. Perfect. Good. So they say that they think this provision, 5-year building, is going to keep falling. You're asking, you're going to say, I'm going to discuss or review or discuss, is it true? If you like to identify whether the reductions are reasonable or whether these are even, like you say, rightly, as you rightly say, true and fair. Perfect here, this 5%, we talked about that. So you can see that literally audit risks are quite easy because you're able to pick them up right from the onset straight away. Very good. Yes, good, because you can see here that they have this material overdraft, so you know straight away there's a chance they want to kind of manipulate those 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 figures. Right, good. Yeah, so here again we see that this has gone from 87. So the fact that this has gone from 87 to sorry, I don't know what's going on there. The fact that this has gone from the fact that this has gone from 87 days to 56 should give you to start making you think about why this is falling, and maybe they're not able to meet their short term short term liabilities. Okay, let's go to the answers and see the sorts of things they're giving us. Um, very quickly. Okay, I haven't got any there. Let's go here and just very quickly see the sorts of things that they're telling us very quickly. The next one will be shorter. We'll try and keep them short and sweet. Completed courses there, and exam kit. Okay, great. So let's look at the first one. Answers to Prancer. Let's look at the comments of the examiner. We know we're going to get this every time. So we're talking about the risk of material misstatement. So what's this risk? Response of the auditor. What are you going to do, if you like, as the auditor? We talked about preconditions. We were talking about all of this, and so look at that. You talked about a new client. You have, as you can see here, is telling you to have a suitably experienced team. Excuse me, a suitably experienced team. Oops. Right. Let's start again. Yes. Work in progress. So you see, the key point is you're looking at those balances. You're thinking, right, I think this. I mean, they tell us they have work in progress. You didn't mention it at all in your answer. Every time you see work in progress, just think about it. The fact is that work in progress will have some work that's got 30%, 40%, 50% completion, 60%. So the question is, how do you guys assess the percentage of this before I accept this number? Remember, work in progress is going to sit in closing inventory. in under current assets, boosting current ratios, boosting, if you like, that sort of that area, and you have covenants that are based. So if I want to manipulate my covenant, all I have to do is go to work in progress. So that's kind of a big one. You always want to remember work in progress. The other thing that you didn't mention was this issue of inventory. They have 2.1, it was 1.4. How on earth has it gone from 1.4 to 2.1? If you like, we want to ask the question, is it truly the fact that you've actually built some more houses and you have them in inventory, or are you just inflating these? So we want to really check to see, because it's typically the same year on year. They might have had a bumper year, we don't know, but the key point is that we want to know that there is no overvaluation, right? Remember here, the question is they're trying to constantly overvalue their assets, and your issue is anything that makes looks like an overvaluation of assets, you're not happy. Now this is a detection risk issue. The question here is, if I don't go and look at those 11 um, um, sites, there might be the issue that I would end up giving the wrong figure for inventory. And so you discuss this question here again of warranty, this question of provision. How have you, and you talk about that, so I'm not going to reiterate that. The property one question is here, are they likely to start putting the, if you like, the 5% as revenue and putting it in the right area? Is it deferred income? Ultimately, yes. Ultimately, yes, because it's really debit bank credit deferred income, not debit bank credit income, and that credit income sits under current liabilities. So you can see it's just making sure we get that right, right? And then we have, of course, the provision. So it's just sort of saying we're really asking, discuss the rationale for reducing. This is probably the bigger one, personally. And you can review and control, do some controls testing, and you will end up doing some. This is a slightly strong. They're doing quite a bit of testing here, but really, I think. You're just trying to get a sense of how they arrive at their provisions, and if it's fair. So whatever it is you need to do, you can put that down. Um, and you did that already here. You talked about the material overdraft. So again, um, and that's it. So we've done well. So let's come back. Let me come back out here. These are too long. If they're too long, you won't be bored. So I think what I can do is here. I would have given you probably. So, I mean, here, I think this was out of 14. Imagine this is out of 3, this is out of 3. Here, I probably would have given you 6 out of 14. And here, I'd have given you 1. And here, I'd have probably given you 1 or 2, maybe 1. I'll say 1. 1, 2, 8. So you can see here that now this first trial is 8 out of 20. But this is the first time you're doing this question. And you can see how audit can be quite tricky unless you kind of really nail and get some of the key points. But it gets better. You just keep writing and doing it over and over again, and you can start getting the same responses, and you start picking up the audit risks because we know they're coming. Okay, great stuff. That's the end of that one. Let's move on to 152.